The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints will face off for the third time this season. The final time Drew Brees will play Tom Brady in their Hall of Fame careers. This game will be live and broadcasted on the History Channel between the two oldest quarterbacks to match up in a playoff game ever. All right? The Saints beat Tampa twice this season. 34-23 in week 1, 38-3 in week 9. Now everyone's saying, ooh, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. Stats actually prove that otherwise, that teams that play for the third time, the team that won the first 2 typically is out on top slightly in the third matchup. I believe the stat is like 14-9 for teams that won the first 2 matchups compared to the team that lost the first 2 matchups. So the Saints, history is in their favor. Now the biggest question in this matchup that's a little bit different probably from those other ones is how different are these teams from the last time we saw them? The Saints, in my opinion, are in an awkward position. While they have pretty much dominated at least the second matchup and pretty much dominated the first matchup, they destroyed them in the second game. They're in an awkward spot because they're playing a different Bucs team. They don't really know what to expect. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay knows what basically the Saints are going to do. They know everything to expect in this game. So that makes it very interesting. Are the Saints just that bad of a matchup for Tampa? Or is the new look Tampa Bay going to be able to overcome the Saints and the things that they do to critique it and to fix it are going to be good enough to beat the Saints? Because think about it, right? If you've ever played sports or you've been in a rivalry or maybe you just played a game or a video game or whatever, right? If you lose to someone twice and then you're playing them in a third game, the person that loses the first 2 games is far more likely to come out with drastic changes or things that the opponent has not seen to change their strategy, right? That's just common sense. The other side, who won the first 2 matchups, especially in blowout fashion, is going to just do what they do. So in that sense, to me, from a football perspective, it's just very interesting from the X's and O's. Now, I think a key reason the Saints were able to win so easily in the second matchup and the first matchup, although the first matchup was really close, it was because of the turnover battle. That was 6-2 in the first matchups, right? Obvious. Brady threw 3 picks in the second game and had 2 in the first game and fumbled in the first game. The reason why the second game was so odd was because the Saints fumbled twice. Brady threw 3 picks. But in the first game, it was closer, but the Bucs lost the turnover differential 3-0. So that's interesting. But yeah, the Saints have won those first 2 matchups, a lot to do with the turnover battle, which we know biggest factor in winning, losing football games. Now, obviously the storyline between these 2 teams in this game is the quarterbacks. We all know that. Even though, they're not what they used to be. They're not the peak of Brady, the peak of Brees. They're the storyline. They're the marquee. So how are they playing right now? Tom Brady has the best PFF passing grade by a sizable margin since returning from the bye in week 13. He has 18 big-time throws and only 1 turnover-worthy play. Remember, keep in mind, 5 interceptions in those first 2 games. Over that time span, since we're week 13 bye. That's the best ratio in the NFL. Over the same stretch, and this is more important, because I think a lot of people know Brady's playing well. But the more important thing is how Brees is playing. Okay, so over that same stretch, Drew Brees has a lower PFF grade than Drew Lock. He ranks 20th in the league. So right now, PFF says Brady is the best quarterback in the league, and Drew Brees is 20th. So that would mean, on paper, coming into this game, the Saints team would have to drastically outplay the Bucs team, right? Quarterback versus quarterback here. Also, in that second matchup, something to consider that made it even weirder was that Tampa Bay set an NFL record for fewest rushing attempts in an NFL game in the history of the NFL with 5. Okay? 5. That's pretty disgusting. All right. Now let's move to the Saints offense versus the Bucs defense. So I think the biggest question to ask here, or before I should do that, I should actually look at the tail of the tape. So let's take a look at the tail of the tape before we get to that matchup. So these are, I think, the two most balanced teams in the NFL left standing. Tampa Bay has the number 2 DVOA offense. This includes the wild card round. They have the number 6 DVOA defense. New Orleans, number 7 on offense and number 2 on defense, only behind the Rams, and Tampa's only behind the Packers, which is the other NFC matchup. Point differential, pretty close, within 8 points, and turnover differential, pretty close, within 1. Now, we see that Tampa has the better offense, New Orleans has the better defense. That's pretty much the way it is. All right. So, Saints offense versus Bucs defense. My biggest question is, how are the Bucs going to actually approach defense? Because I will tell you right now, I will tell you who wins right now. If the Buccaneers play defense the way they played in the second game, they will lose. You can absolutely, positively take that to the bank. If the Bucs play defense the way they played defense in the first game, they will 100% win this game. So that is what this game comes down to. The approach of Todd Bowles and how well the Bucs defense plays is the ultimate X factor in this game, period, end of story. Okay? Now let's take a look at why this is so important. Drew Brees' completion percentage drops from 74.6 when playing both outside cornerbacks who are playing in off coverage, which is what Tampa Bay did in the second game. Played a lot of off coverage, soft zone coverage. Okay? 74.6 completion percentage versus off coverage. 57.6% completion percentage when both outside corners are pressed. Okay? So basically, in the same coverage, it could be 2-man, cover 2, cover 3. If the corners are off, Drew Brees is a significantly better quarterback than when the corners are pressed. So when a defense is aggressive with their receivers, because the Saints are a underneath passing attack that is all about timing and rhythm and quick game. And when you disrupt timing, rhythm, and quick game and you become physical, the Saints are not, they're actually a human offense. They're an average offense. But when you play them soft and allow Drew Brees to see and throw without timing being disrupted, they are a very good offense. In week 1, the Bucs played more press coverage against New Orleans and essentially shut down the Saints' passing attack. You could see that by Drew Brees' stats. Okay? Brees went 18 for 30 for 160 and 2 touchdowns. Not very good. All right? 160, 18 for 30, not great stats. In that game, Michael Thomas had 3 for 17 in game 1. In game 2, he led the team with 5 catches for 51 yards. And both of those games, primarily in coverage, was Carlton Davis. I think for the Saints to be successful on offense, I expect Todd Bowles to play much more aggressive, similarly to the way he played in week 1, pressuring Brees from the interior with blitzes, stunts, and playing man coverage on the outside, probably occasionally double teaming Michael Thomas. So for me, the answer for the Saints is going to have to be the other guys winning their matchups. Whether it is Harris, Sanders, Cook, these guys need to win. Because you know that Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara are 100% going to be the primary focus of any defense, especially the Bucs, who have played this team twice and understand what they're going to do on offense, right? So my question then is, how does Todd Bowles kind of approach pressuring Brees? We saw the Bears do a pretty good job of this last week, pressuring him. I'd expect Devin White to be pretty involved. I would expect the Bucs to do this by using a lot of stunts that allow Shaq Barrett and JPP to get to the inside, because the Saints are a lot better at their tackle position and a lot worse at their guard and center position. So for the Bucs, I would expect a lot more stunts where JPP and Shaq Barrett are rushing up the middle, along with Devin White using more as a blitzer. I think that would mean that Mike Edwards, the safety, plays a lot more in the secondary, and they move one of their safeties into the box, probably Whitehead. So those guys, I think White won't be as much in coverage. He wasn't playing last week. He's back this week. Major factor to their pass rush. I think he had 7 or 8 sacks this year. So he's been fantastic in that area. I expect Levante David to be the guy that is most often on Alvin Kamara, and in previous matchups has done a pretty good job. With the Saints, because there's such a underneath patient offense that takes their time, they're a lot about that stuff. You know, they don't go over the top very much. They're not quick strike. They're not explosive. A lot of it has to do with execution on third down, execution in the red zone. And, you know, it was 11 for 17, the Bears were, on third down last week, right? That versus the Bears, they were 11 for 17. The Bears got them to 17 third downs, and the Saints were able to execute on 11. Now, keep in mind, the Bears defense played very well versus the Saints, despite having a good secondary, which a lot of people are saying, you know, the Bucs secondary is not very good. Well, it's definitely better than Chicago's was last week. Let me tell you that. So, as long as I feel that the Bucs play aggressive man coverage and blitz on third down and make tackles on third down, they can at least split it even with the Saints on third down. And that would just mean the Saints aren't sustaining drives, which means Tom Brady's on the field more. Instead of what happened last game where it's soft zone, it's underneath, you get picked apart, and they go on long drives and score. Another key factor to last time they played was Taysom Hill. He actually played a very good game. He had 7 rushes for 54 yards. He had a catch for 21 yards, and he was 2 for 2 for 48 yards. I would also expect Tampa Bay to look at that Chicago film and do some of the same things that Chicago did. They were very good versus Taysom Hill last week. They blitzed a lot when Taysom was a passer or, you know, a runner. And I think kind of if you stop Taysom the first couple times, Sean Payton will be hesitant to put him back on the field. That's kind of the way I look at it. The running game won't be much of a factor, in my opinion, as the Bucs have pretty much shut down the running game for all teams, including the Saints. Last time, 19 for 79 yards and a touchdown was Kamara and Murray. That's, you know, what, like 3 yards an attempt, 3.9, like something like that. So that's not super efficient. The interesting thing I found statistically from the second game was, in fact, that Barrett actually was really good in the game, as well as Ndamukong Suh. Shaq Barrett. So this makes me believe that if the Bucs change their secondary, they actually can get pressure up front, because they have gotten pressure, but Brees was just able to get rid of the ball quickly. So when you look at the stats, Barrett in game 2 had 7 hurries, including a sack, and Suh had 5 hurries, which that's a fair amount, especially considering Brees is getting the ball out very quick in that game. So my basic reason for this on this side of the ball is, if the Bucs play with the same game plan that they had in week 1, but play the way they've been playing on offense, they should win the game. So let's take a look at the other side of the ball, the Saints defense versus the Bucs offense. So something very key to this game, as well as the two matchups that they played earlier in the season, was the Saints' ability to pressure Brady, right? Everybody's been talking about it, and everybody was talking about it last week. Now, something that's really, really interesting is how much the Bucs have changed offensively since their bye week and since week 9, which was their second matchup. They are a completely different offense schematically, and they are a completely different offense in how they protect Brady. One of the big keys is Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was thrown into the lineup in week 9. Recently, he's been playing better and better and better, and just gives Tom Brady another reliable target everywhere on the field, from short to intermediate to deep. That is a one-on-one mismatch for basically every team in the league because they have 3 number 1 receivers. So even if Lattimore takes Evans out of the game, say that happens, you still have to deal with Brown and Godwin in potential mismatches, meaning the Saints most likely won't be able to play a lot of man, and if they do, they'll probably get torched because they still got to deal with Cam Brate and Gronk and all those other guys quite a bit. But the biggest difference over Antonio Brown has been play action. Play action, play action, play action. The Bucs are the leading team in EPA per play, expected points added, if you don't know what EPA is. So that means it's positive for their offense. They score more points with play action than any other team in the league. So since their bye in week 12, they have been the best play action team in the NFL. Brady is also getting rid of the ball faster since then. He's actually getting rid of the ball faster than Drew Brees is, despite throwing the ball down the field much more often. So over the first 13 weeks of the season, Tom Brady's play action rate ranked 37th out of 40 quarterbacks by Pro Football Focus. Now Tom Brady's play action usage is 33% as of last week, 27% overall after the bye. So it's only gotten higher versus Washington. And it was at 18% before the bye, right? Last week versus Washington, a very good front seven and the second best pass defense in the league, which is better than New Orleans, in fact, statistically. He went 8 for 13 for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaging almost 7 yards better on play action passes than non-play action attempts. So the Bucs are deadly in 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, 2 receivers, and play action. They are absolutely deadly, and they are nearly unstoppable right now in that area of the game because they are protecting Tom. They're often keeping Gronk or another person in to block, and that's allowing Brady a clean pocket to step up and throw. And because his receivers get open so quickly, it allows him to get rid of the ball quickly. And I think a big reason for that is because early in the season, even through the first 12, 10 weeks, he didn't have the chemistry with the receivers that were needed to trust them on quick, decisive throws. But because the season has worn on and he has gotten better chemistry and more reps with his receivers, he understands their mannerisms, how they play, how they get open. And that is how Tom Brady has allowed himself to protect his offensive line and get rid of the ball. I actually checked. Brady is getting rid of the ball at the same rate, 2.4 seconds, that he did in 2018 when the Patriots won the Super Bowl. So it's essentially the same as when he was in New England, which, if you know, he used to get rid of the ball in New England very fast. Now, I think also another thing here is the middle of the field has opened up because of play action pass for Tampa. If you watch the first 2 Saints games and you watch the Bucs offense in general up until the bye week, they were very sideline oriented, very outside the numbers, low percentage passes oriented. And now it's kind of like spread all over the place. So they attack you at every level now, whether it's short, intermediate, deep, inside, outside the numbers, instead of just outside the numbers, deep down the field, which is what they were doing a lot of the time early in the season. Also, a massive reason they lost the second game, is Joe Haeg, who took over for Ali Marpet in that second game. Now, Ali Marpet is the best pass blocking guard in football this season. When he plays, he essentially unlocks the Bucs offense. When they have struggled this year, they struggled without Ali Marpet. Basically point blank period. Now, Joe Haeg in that game wasn't just a backup, but he was absolutely dreadful. He had a 40.7 PFF grade, a 20 pass blocking grade. He allowed 3 quarterback hits on Tom Brady, 4 hurries, and 7 pressures. Okay? Now, he wasn't the only problem, but he was a huge problem. The second problem was Donovan Smith, who is their left tackle. He allowed 6 pressures, 5 hurries, and 1 hit, mostly to Trey Hendrickson. Now, what the Bucs have done most of the time when they've gone down the field to protect Donovan Smith is have Gronk next to him to protect. And I would expect that to be the case this week as well. Actually, Gronk was one-on-one blocking Chase Young on a handful of plays last week. Trey Hendrickson did not play last week. He's hurt. I think he'll play this week, but he can't be at 100%. So I would expect him to be in the lineup. I think Smith's played better since then because the offense has generally just done a better job of protecting their offensive line and allowed more high percentage plays. But obviously you have to give the edge to Hendrickson there. But across the board, the rest of the matchups favored Tampa Bay on the offensive line. Tristan Wirfs has been incredible. Their interior offensive line is very solid. Now, Alex Kappa will be replaced in this game after he broke his ankle. Aaron Stiney, I think is his name, has played 30 snaps this year. He has a 74.7 PFF grade, which is 37 points higher, or 34.7 points higher than Joe Haeg. And during those 30 snaps, which was just one play, but it was one game versus the Rams, but it was versus the Rams, so that is to consider. He was around the 10th best guard in the league, ranking just above Joe Thuney. So he's been good in replacing Alex Kappa or Ali Marpet during that time. Yeah, that's pretty much the matchups. Obviously, everyone's going to be looking at Evans and Lattimore. My thing for the Saints would be, it's hard to change what you've done. I don't think you can expect to play the same way that you did the first time and just win. But I think you need to continue to try to confuse Brady in terms of I think, honestly, the Saints need to play a lot of heavy coverage defense. Like, I think they need to try to see if their 4-man rush can get to the quarterback. If it does not, then you have to start thinking about blitzing on third down and situationally. But I think for the Saints defense, they need to play heavy zone, heavy, just kind of filling up spaces, because I don't think they can play man across the board. Maybe Lattimore can win his matchup, but I don't think the other guys will. Now, I would also consider moving, especially if Hendrickson plays. That would leave you Hendrickson and Davenport on the edge. I would move Cameron Jordan to the inside, right over Stiney to rush. I would like to see the Saints, if they are going to attack Brady and get to Brady, the best way to get to Brady is in the inside to collapse the pocket. And I think by putting Jordan in the interior, that would be their best bet of doing so, because I think him lined over Tristan Wirfs is pretty much a stalemate. So it wouldn't really be to your advantage. You'd rather have Davenport over there and Hendrickson on the other side, and then Jordan in the inside. That would be my personal take if I was attacking the Bucs offense. A lot of coverage, 4-man rush, put Jordan in the interior. If Hendrickson does not play, that is a significant loss in my opinion, because he basically wrecked the entire game both times for the Bucs offense. But something to consider if you're a Bucs fan is, hey man, I think Allen and Payne are better interior rushers for Washington than anyone the Saints have. Like, Malcolm Brown, Onyemata, these guys are not, they're big run stuffers. Rankins, they're not great at rushing the passer. So the Saints are really good off the edge rushing the passer, but usually that's not what gives Brady the problems. What's given Brady problems versus the Saints is the offense. That's what's given Brady problems, is their approach to attacking the Saints, not the Saints attacking Brady. That is the biggest thing that I see. So, final notes here. The Saints have been dealing with some kicker problems with Will Lutz not playing very well. He's kind of sucked lately. So if this game comes down to a field goal, Suckup's been playing better. Lutz has proven he's pretty good over the years, but he's struggled as of late. And the final stat I saw was the Bucs have not lost a game where they've scored 25 plus points. So if you believe the Bucs will score 25 or more, you probably think the Bucs will win. But if you think the Bucs will score less than 25, they'll probably lose. So my prediction for this game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will win. I have Tampa winning 27-20. I think the main reason I have Tampa Bay overcoming New Orleans, despite losing to them twice, is because they're a totally different team. What I've seen from them is very promising on offense. And I don't think the Saints can match the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' explosive offense. I think Brady is playing much better football than Drew Brees at this point. And I think the Saints' inability to create big plays will be the reason the Bucs defense actually rises to the occasion and has a good game. I think a lot of people are going to pick the Saints to score 30 plus. I think the Bucs defense is actually going to surprise people and have a good game, because I think the Bucs will realize, at least I hope, the way that they can play to stifle the Saints. And I haven't been impressed with the Saints offense over the past 5 to 6 weeks. So I've been super impressed with the Bucs offense has been the best offense in the league over the past 6 to 7 weeks. So I'm going to take the Bucs to win, and I think it's going to be slightly lower scoring because I don't think it will be in the 30s, because I think these teams know each other too well, and when you play so many times in a season, typically the score is a little lower. So I will take the Bucs 27, Saints 20. Now the Saints totally could win 100%. I'm not denying that fact. They are the favorites for a reason. They have, in my opinion, if the Saints win, it's because their coaches outcoach the Bucs coaches. It's as simple as that. Like, all around, and it really doesn't matter, how much talent the Bucs have. The Saints simply outcoach them. And if you believe that to be the case, then I could totally see why you pick the Saints. But I am going to take Tampa. I do truly believe it's hard to beat a team 3 times when they're this good. But the bigger thing I believe in is that when you play a team for the 3rd time and they are nothing like what they were in the first or second game, that is when it becomes difficult. And the other team knows you to be the same. So that's why I'm picking Tampa to win this game 27-20.